Yesterday we spent a lot of time working, putting fractions into decimals. Today, we're spending some time putting decimals into fractions. I think Carlos was the one that asked, are decimals and fractions the same or something to that effect, right? So, yeah, any fraction we can convert to a decimal. Any decimal we can convert to a fraction. Okay? So, for example, a decimal like this, if it's said properly, and we don't say 0.7. If we call it by its proper name, what do we have up there on the board? Alexis.
700.
No. That's what that is, 7 over 10? What is that? 7/10. Good. And if I asked you to write a fraction, 7/10, that's what it would be. But answer the right question.
Can't you say 7 over 10 or no?
That wasn't the question. The question was, what is that? Is that 7 over 10? That's 7/10. 7/10 is a fraction that looks like that. Yes, you can say 7 over 10, but if we want to get proper about it, I wouldn't say it's 7 over 10. I'd call it 7/10. Just like with the decimal, Alexis, if I wanted to be proper with it, I could call it 0.7. That's not really getting proper with it. You know what I mean? So if we're proper with the way that we speak and the way that what we call these, converting them isn't that big of a deal. Okay? Zay, question? Right here?
Yeah.
Sure. Keep my eye on you. How about this one? If we want to get proper with it, we would call this, Mariah, 23 hundredths. And that's good enough. Okay? Now we use the reverse. What we did for yesterday, remember yesterday we said, okay, well, I've got this 23, and I've got it in the 100th place. I got to go 2 places behind the decimal. Now I just look and say, okay, I'm 2 places behind the decimal. That must mean I'm using 100. I'm in the 100th place as my denominator. That 23 would go on top. Okay? It works the same way. If they ask you for, let's go back to this 7/10. If the directions say, give me 2 equivalent fractions for each decimal, well, one of them can be the 7/10. Can you give me another equivalent fraction to 7/10? Remember how we did that? We get equivalent fractions 2 ways. One way by multiplication, the other way by division. Let's use multiplication. Times what? Desi? Sure. So 7 times 2? 10 times 2? 20. So if that were the case, we could use those 2 fractions. How about this 23 over 100? Can you give me another equivalent fraction to 23 hundredths? Yes.
46.
Good. Very good. And those would both work. Okay? So it's just taking this one step and then just kind of going backwards to putting it into an equivalent fraction, which we've already done for homework. Okay? That was the first lesson that we had. All right, what about one like this? Five and 75 hundredths. Say?
You mean like they said 7,500.
That would be one option. That is essentially what it is as a fraction, right? It's 75 in the 100th place, 75 hundredths. Now, I was using multiplication to get equivalent fractions for the other 2 examples. Maybe I don't want to use multiplication for this one because the numbers are kind of big. Can I think of maybe what I could divide them both by to get my equivalent fraction this time? Carlos?
25.
Yeah, 25. 75, how many 25s are in 75? And 4. So those two would work. Now you could, if you're not comfortable with that, you want to say, oh, I'll just multiply it by 2. Okay. So 150 over 200 would also work. Okay. But it is good to at least, if the fraction can be put into a simpler form using division, it is good to try to do that. Because you will eventually have to do that. So the more practice you can get with it on your own, the better off you're going to be. I'll give you one. I'll give you a decimal. Give me 2 equivalent fractions for it. Okay, what's the first one we're starting with? It's the easiest one to start with, Mariah? All right, good. Now where we go from here is up to you. Division is an option. Division is an option. They're both even. So if you went the division route, you could divide them both by 2 and get what? Liam?
36. Wait, oh, divide by 2?
If I went the division route, yeah, what would I get?
950.
Awesome. Now if I decide to go the multiplication route, what would it be?
36.
If I went by 2. I mean, I could go by 10, 26, who cares? Doesn't matter. Whatever you want. Yes?
So for the works, so if you put it like the 18100, would that be 1 right there?
Yep, that's 1. Yeah. Yeah. This is 1. So that could be a combination you have. That could be a combination that you have. Sure. Okay. Now that one. Okay, so the 5 is in what place if it's 2 places after? Carlos. Good. So that could be 1. If I went the division route, if I was brave, yes. They're both divisible by 5. So 5 divided by 5. 100 divided by 5. 20. Good. If I chickened out and I went the multiplication route, maybe 10 over 200, right? It's good practice. I won't make you do it, but this is definitely good practice. Helps prepare you for what's coming. And 1.004. Okay. So 1 has to be part of your fraction, right? Because we do have the whole number 1. That 4 is 3 places, so my denominator should have 3 zeros, Tequila. Awesome. So that's the start. I could use the division option. Tequila? So you divide them both by 2? Okay, so you got what? Could we go even further? We can go by 4, we can go further and take this again and say by 2, right? So 1 and 250. Okay. There are 2 right there. If I wanted to go the multiplication route, maybe I went 8 over 2,000. Okay, with the 1. Okay. So you have options. All right. Not bad. Not bad. All right, essentially that's all I got for it. So I'm going to assign numbers 10 through 21 on your sheet. Look at 16 through 21. 16 through 21, make sure you're looking at the right side. Write as a decimal and as a fraction or mixed numbers. So number 16, what is it? It's 6/10. So they want this written out as a fraction and as a decimal. So I don't care which one you do first. Liam?
0.6.
0.6 would be the decimal. And?
And 6/6.
6/10. That's your homework. Okay, now there's a good chance you'll finish early, maybe way early. So hopefully you have something else that you can be working on. But the good news is, the bright side is you won't have math homework for the weekend. Just make sure you bring it back on Monday.